We live in a society which thrives on sensationalism. The topics which are hot-button issues are the newsmakers. While everyone has their say as to what makes them mad, we forget yesterday's news spin as soon as the next set of talk starts up. The hunt for criminals who have escaped lawful custody and the publishing of names and faces of escaped convicts and prime suspects in major cases appear not to be a priority for law enforcement in St. Lucia. There is no cold case unit within the police force to deal with such matters, so many cases are unwittingly swept under the carpet as a matter of convenience. There are a number of high-profile cases which remain unsolved simply because the public are not aware. The same public who law enforcement solicit information from. Irony or stupidity? Would it not be better for the names and faces of wanted individuals to be a regular feature to expedite their recapture? In this episode of Untold Stories, we list St. Lucia's 10 most wanted fugitives. To clearly understand why there are so many fugitives still at large, in Untold Stories, St. Lucia's Most Wanted Part 1, we went back 165 years ago to a time when the island's first jail was constructed. We recounted a penal system that focused primarily on punishment of lawbreakers and not the rehabilitation of offenders. Former staff at the facility spoke of deplorable working conditions and an unsanitary, violent atmosphere for inmates. In Part 1, we also listed the number of escaped convicts who were recaptured, many of them living with the scars meted out by the flying squad during their recapture. Others like Corbo, Hardin, and Cupio were not fortunate enough to live to tell their tale. In 1997, prisoners took the only action they knew of to collectively show their disgust with their horrendous living conditions. They torched the place.
As far back as 1901, more than 100 years ago, the report of the Jail and Police Commission found the building housing Her Majesty's prison to be unsuitable and inadequate to serve as a prison.
Despite this, the prison in the latter part of the 20th century went through a series of brazen, baffling, and some downright easy prison breakouts.
The fact that it was an old structure and they could have broken out of it with very little problems. The next part of it is the conditions of work for officers. Pay, which was so minimal that inmates could have influenced officers to do a lot of things. They would influence them to bring in illegal stuff for them to facilitate their escape and get paid for it. This thing, well, like this reigns supreme in all prisons. And this is one of the problems that we always had where government is concerned asking for better pay for officers so as you don't get tempted to do these kind of acts.
But not all wardens were corrupt. Others were just not good at their jobs.
Some officers are lax too. They're very, very, very lax. They'll be just standing in one place trying to oversee everything while the inmates go and come back. Inmates told me straight off that they were going and coming back at that time.
By that time, the building housing the prison was 166 years old and was literally falling apart.
The whole structure, the building was old, and it was very easy to walk through it because of the fact that it was lime that was joining it together, and to take off a brick of it, you just had to scratch it out. It wouldn't take too long. right? Again, because of minimal security, it was easy for them to create, or not really create a diversion as such, but to be able to get enough time to do what they were doing, to escape, or to prepare the points where they escape, without the officers knowing.
The Molotov cocktail for escape was further spiced with a special ooze of officer frustration.
The escapes are facilitated both ways. Corrupt officers, and the corrupt officers get into corruption because they're not satisfied with the pay, and it's so easy for all the frustration at work, and it's so easy for the inmates, especially when it comes to fellas involved in drugs and big crimes, to pay them and pay them well.
When we return, a political party keeps a campaign promise, and prisoners get a new home.
Every once in a while, a company will appear on the scene with a fresh perspective, a burst of adrenaline, and a passion for excellence. Its humble beginnings are steeped in social transformation. Last to enter the arena, it changes the status quo, and the game will never be the same again. The independent film company appeared on the scene when the commercial sector needed it most. Its metamorphosis blossomed with the production of the most creative television commercials in St Lucia, and they do it all absolutely free. From marketing concepts, surveys and research, to professionally produced ads for social media and television, and the most engaging documentaries in the English-speaking Caribbean. With heavy investments in technology and a focus on building the technical and service capacity of its nimble team, it prides itself on being the little company that could. The Independent Film Company Incorporated, changing yesterday's game, rewriting today's roles, and charting the way for multimedia production here, now, and beyond.
During political campaigns, parties have been known to make outlandish promises to the electorate. While in opposition, the answers always seem to be at the tip of their tongues, but a series of excuses usually follow once they assume office. This would certainly not be the case this time around with New Labour. As far back as when Julian Hunt was opposition leader, his pleas for the inmates within the confines of Her Majesty's prisons fell on deaf ears. He wrote to then Governor General Stanislaus James to grant permission to visit the prison. But then Superintendent Melcher got the call from Prime Minister John Compton denying Hunt entry. The SLP's dream for a new prison finally began to take shape during their first term in office. Their efforts were jolted into action following a series of unfortunate events. But alas, the frequent prison breaks stopped. By the time of the move from HMP to Bodley, there were several fugitives still at large.
From 1978 to present, we have 18 people at large.
In 2003, Dr. Kenny Anthony and other key government officials took in firsthand the appalling conditions which St Lucia's penal colony endured for 165 years. It was the first time in the recorded history of St Lucia that a sitting Prime Minister had ever visited the museum, which demonstrated clearly man's inhumanity to man.
Having been here and toured the various cells, I think I now understand the dehumanizing experience that the prison officers must have had here, as well as the prisoners. I am shocked that St Lucians allowed this experience to endure for such a long time. And having visited this prison, gone into the cells myself, I am even more fortified that this government acted wisely when it constructed Bodley.
Finally, a sitting policymaker agrees and seems to have understood why prisoners risked life and limb to escape lawful custody.
It's for the prisoners themselves who have been compelled, possibly, to engage in very dehumanizing behavior. After all, when you have 20 persons to a cell, 30 persons to a cell, they would have no choice but to engage in behavior that none of us would regard as acceptable behavior.
Opposing for opposition's sake has caused many opposition MPs to taste their own Reeboks. Carl Daniels skillfully demonstrated the art when he accused the SLP administration of wasting $50 million on convicts. Carl was a strong proponent of an overcrowded prison. To him, it was a further deterrent to crime.
And they should be ashamed of themselves because they were in office for over 30 years and did not make any effort to deal with the predicament of the prison officers as well as the prisoners who have been here over the years.
On January 15, 2003, the Bordelais Correctional Facility was officially opened. It could accommodate 450 inmates, and its primary mandate was maximum security of inmates from society, whilst rehabilitating them for reintegration into society.
We cannot continue to live with the casual walkouts of prisoners from prison. Nor can our society tolerate any longer scenes of prison riots in the very heart of our main capital, holding politicians, our business community, and all law-abiding citizens to ransom. With the construction of this prison, we have taken a decisive step to bring to an end the ridiculous and untenable situation of a penal system which cannot keep its prisoners behind bars. This facility is now more secure than the old prison, and it is now more difficult for hardened criminals to simply walk out of jail or scale the prison walls, as was the case in the past.
Bricks, steel, and barbed wire alone is not a prison. The correctional officers who are ultimately responsible for the daily operations at the new facility must be beyond reproach. The new crop received the sternest of warnings, considering their predecessors' track record.
The prison, it has been advanced, has been held together by unlawful and corrupt practices and behavior. What I can confirm is that the government is in possession of allegations of corrupt behavior and practices, of abuse and misdirection of government property for personal gain and enrichment. These practices cannot be allowed to be transferred to this institution.
Stay tuned as Hilary Herman answers some tough questions.
Where most people see a window, we see a vision. We see the hours of development and testing, from the precision of craftsmen, quality of components, CNC processing to form immaculate all-glass products, the dedication of people who stand behind a product built to last a lifetime. And who knows, maybe after today, every time you look through one, you'll remember everything that went into it. St. Lu means windows, doors and all-glass products, and customization of modular products to suit your needs. Precision, quality, safety. They're your windows and your world. Call us today at 454-6538.
The prison system, although plagued with the incurable corruption malady, its superintendents always seem to be above board, making the best of the crumbs received from the national tide. With the construction of the Bordelais facility, the emphasis is now on rehabilitation rather than just punishment. This called for a man with US Army training, discipline like a school principal, and impeccable deportment. Hilary Herman has been at the forefront of penal reform in St. Lucia since 2003. His dedication to Bordelais is exemplary, being only slowed by the bureaucrats who pull his strings. I sat down with the director to understand why so many fugitives are still at large. In your opinion, what gave rise to the circumstances that made it so easy for people to walk out of Her Majesty's?
Well, I think the number one thing was the environment. The facility itself was not conducive to security. It was in a terrible location. The walls were cracking, you had poor supervision. In my opinion, at very few of the times that was the staff in control of inmates.
Since the opening of Bodley Correctional Facility, how many prisoners have escaped?
We've had 3 inmates escape from the farm. Now the farm is now fenced in. It was prior to us fencing it in. We had last year, August 10th of 2010, we had the invasion of, well, we know it's 3 people came out to help the 2 Venezuelan and 1 local person escape from the prison. That was our most biggest and highest profile escape.
Of these 6 individuals, how many have been recaptured?
Yes, we've had all 3 from the farm been recaptured, but the 2 Venezuelan and the local St Lucian has not been recaptured.
What happens when they are recaptured?
Well, they're recaptured, they're recharged for escape in custody, and then they're put into the maximum security unit, and we treat them different in that we give them a reflective clothing to wear for a certain period of time, depending on their behavior, and just so we keep track of them more often.
Mr. Herman, in the training of new recruits for both the Royal St. Lucia Police Force and your department, would you say that they are properly informed of the number of escapees who are still at large?
I obviously cannot speak of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, but as far as correctional officers, I will tell you, no, it is not something that we've done. I think we've spent so much effort in trying to recruit new officers and good officers that it has not been considered. But after having this conversation, I think it is something that we do need to highlight. We have not done so in the past.
Why has there been a lack of public sensitization on the number of fugitives still at large?
I think that it's a societal thing. It is more cultural than anything else. What you find is that when there's an escape, there's panic initially. Everyone wants to know the background of this inmate, what he did, why was he imprisoned. And within 2 to 3 days, it's very short-lived. And unless this person reappears, there's no interest.
Mr. Herman was spot on. When the 2 Venezuelan nationals and Mohammed Duncan from St. Lucia were boosted out of jail on August 9th, 2010, gunfire erupted at the compound. The nation was alerted. A government minister was quick to label the facility a basket full of holes. The police commissioner had his best men on the case. But as soon as the spotlight was switched off, it was never made mention of again. It is doubtful whether a significant percentage of law enforcement officers even know who these people are, much less the general public. Would you agree that prisoners who are at large for non-violent crimes are pursued less than prisoners who are?
If there is an imminent threat, if this person has had a history of violence, then it is pursued. Other than that, it's just and I think what you will hear is that there's limited resources, and then the few people we have, we're not going to spend a lot of time looking for a non-violent person, or, and I think that's the general attitude.
Is there a reward leading to the capture of any of these fugitives?
There is not. There is not. Those are normally on an individual basis, again, depending on the crime, the individual's history. But since I've been around, we've never had any reward on any of the escaped prisoners.
What have you done to ensure that your crop of prison officers are not induced to take bribes or allow people to walk out of prison like in old HMP?
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I've heard a lot of those rumors that inmates were let out on weekends and, odd times. It's a very difficult thing. However, I think we've put some things in place that we think we've done a better job at vetting the people in charge. We think we've done a better job at that. Unfortunately for us now, we now have closed circuit TV that can now monitor some of those, what goes out and what goes in, and we have developed a small intelligence unit that can now review those things to make sure that in the wee hours of the morning that no one was let out and and get back in. So I'm pretty confident that that does not happen today.
"39-year-old Leslie Mason, originally from St. Vincent, was on remand for possession of cannabis when he escaped custody on April 4, 1993. He is 5 feet 6 inches tall, of medium build and dark complexion. It is suspected that he may still be involved in the drug trade between St. Lucia and St. Vincent. "40-year-old Corey Noel, originally from St. Michael's, Barbados, was serving time at Her Majesty's Prison for possession of cannabis, possession with intent to supply, and disembarking without immigration permission. He was fined $50,000 or 3 years imprisonment, 3 years for intent to supply, and 6 months for immigration violations. Corey Noel is 6 feet 2 inches tall and was last seen wearing dreadlocks. He has been at large since May 21st, 1996. "41-year-old Kenny Charles, alias Son, was sentenced to 9 months imprisonment for disembarking without immigration consent, possession of a firearm and ammunition. He stands 5 feet 11 inches and is from Coastal Hill, St. Vincent. He escaped custody on July 5, 1997. 43-year-old Peter Shaka would have been better off serving his 4-month jail term. Instead, he earned a spot on the fugitive list after being sentenced for fraud and stealing. He is originally from Caneville, Dominica. Peter Shaka is chubby and is 5 feet 10 inches tall. He escaped Her Majesty's Prison on July 26, 2001. "34-year-old Timothy Gomes, also goes by the name Glenn Joseph, is no stranger to police and is well known for robberies. He hails from Cul-de-sac. On the last day of 2002, Gomes made good on his escape. At the time, he was serving a 5-year jail term for robbery and 18 months for previously escaping lawful custody. He is believed to still be plying his skills as a thief and is considered armed and dangerous. 38-year-old Jonah Joseph, aka Smiley, was serving a 4-year sentence for firearm possession. Smiley is from Rose Hill in Castries and has been at large since December 18, 2000. Smiley is considered armed and dangerous. 31-year-old Elijah Garnes, also known as The Boss, hails from Peru in Beaufort. At the time of his escape, he was serving a 3-year sentence for possession of firearm and ammunition. When he was arrested in the year 2000, he sported dreadlocks. However, it is believed that Elijah The Boss Garnes has a new hairdo and is still in the Beaufort area. At only 5 feet 4 inches tall, The Boss is considered one of the most dangerous men at large. 35-year-old Colin Paul also goes by the name Greg. Arrested in 2001, he was serving 3 years for possession of ammunition, 3 years for gun charges, and 2 months for possession of controlled drugs. Colin Greg Paul's last address was Goodlands, Castries. He escaped custody on September 25, 2001. 27-year-old Paul Henry is the youngest person on the fugitive list. Paul goes by the name Zero, and he escaped lawful custody on August 14, 2008, while serving an 18-month sentence for wounding. He stands 5 feet 7 inches tall and is believed to be hiding in the Bizet area. Paul is a dangerous young man who must be returned to Bordelais. Stay tuned. When we return, a cutlass-wielding man chops off his lover's head and earns himself the title of St. Lucia's Most Wanted.
I watched him on the bed, knowing a man who has worked his entire life, can't afford the cost of his surgery or medication. Mom and I must sell barbecue tickets to help save his life. For less than $4 a day, the cost of a packet of gum, my dad could have been airlifted to get treatment. Some adults can be so insensitive with their lack of foresight. Now, Mom and I either have to watch him wither away or sell a whole lot more barbecue. Why? Because one person didn't care enough to plan.
GTM Medical Insurance. Less than $4 a day for the greatest peace of mind anyone could ask for. Call us today, 458-6300.
St Lucia's most elusive fugitive's name still drives fear in the heart of retired policemen and citizens alike. Sylvester Jean-Baptiste, fearfully known as Shaka. In 1989, Shaka was 35 years old and his lover Mary Radcliffe was 32, a mother of 4, 2 of them fathered by Shaka. Reports indicate that they had a stormy relationship. This is the house where they lived. Llewellyn Radcliffe is the eldest of Mary's children. At the time of her death, he was 10 years old and witnessed his mother's head being severed by his stepfather.
Well, it was around 6 o'clock in the morning. She woke me up and she told me, handle the flower pot that's inside the house to give sun. While I was handling the flower pot, I just see a white thing just come down. And then when I watched she fall, when she fell, when I watched behind her, I saw a pool of blood start shooting out from her neck. When I watched through the side of the window, I see Shaka. He tell me, I next. So I start to scream like a little girl. Then my uncle was living in that house over there. I passed through the gallery and ran through the front door and start screaming his name. Then he come out with a cutlass because the way I was screaming is like something was wrong. He came out with his cutlass right away. From there, Shaka just ran up, go on the road, cut up through that hills, vanish. Never see him again. Never. I just hearing about him and thing. But right here, everything happened.
What do you think brought that on?
Well, he was reading some D. Lawrence book and them kind of thing. He could not properly read, so my mother used to break it down for him. Then he tell my mother, well, he want to have sex with my elder sister. So he brought her in this, he kidnapped her, he brought her in this cemetery over there. He raped her, I think, or something. He take her blood, or say some virgin blood. He take her blood or something. The next day, my mother said she would have gone report him to the police station and tell the police that he would have killed her and raped the daughter. He then do something to the daughter. So before she can do the report in the morning, he just take a cutlass and he just fly ahead. Trust me, that's all I could tell because I was 10 years. I could not really tell you what was going on. But he tell my mother he still want and he was married to a next woman. So my mother considered he can't have a kick and he jacket. So it's either he leave her alone or stay with the married woman. He find, well, he's man, so you don't know how man think already. Do what he want. That's all I could tell you because I could tell you nothing much in their relationship. I was young. I cannot focus to tell you what reason that would give a man a reason to do something so crazy, to tell you the truth. But I knew for a fact he was reading old books.
If you saw him today, would you be able to identify him?
No. To tell you the truth, no. After 24 years, I was 10 years to no. You could be standing up right there and call him and I even know that is him. That's to show you how. It could be him, it could be you, I know. To tell you the truth, never see that guy on.
24 years after the fact, St. Lucia police have proven Shaka right. His alleged love note after the attack said, "No man lays a hand on me." Shaka still remains the prime suspect in Mary Radcliffe's death and has earned himself the dubious title of St. Lucia's Most Wanted. In 1989, he wore his hair in dreadlocks. Today, he would be 59 years old. He is believed to be highly superstitious. Urban legend tells stories of Shaka roaming the hills of St. Vincent. Others say he is working as a joiner in the Big Apple, while others place him as far as Canada. Yet, Barbano residents tell stories of a man fitting the description with young children in the area. Tonight, The police need your help to bring Shaka and these other fugitives to face justice. There are a number of murder cases for which the police have failed to bring anyone to justice, not because of lack of evidence, but because of lack of information regarding the whereabouts of prime suspects. The murder of Danny Habib in 1992 remains unsolved. The person believed to be responsible for shooting a man dead at this bar in Bois-de-Wage is well known to police, but not to the general public. He too remains at large. The person or persons responsible for opening fire on Magistrate Anne-Marie Smith. Not forgetting the Happy Day murder of Ian Gregory Manuel are still at large. Marcia Filbert Jules turns in her grave while her killer roams free. Michael Fade's murder has never been solved despite promising leads. Recently, a $10,000 reward was offered for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for the murder of Lilia Norgard Joseph at her residence in Soufrière. Returning fugitives to serve their time is the responsibility of a collective law-abiding nation. Failure in doing so can cause more situations like the death of Perry Jules to reoccur. He was a young man who was sentenced to 4 years imprisonment for robbery. He broke out of police custody and earned himself an additional 5 outstanding warrants. To avoid recapture, he opened fire on a policeman. On his last day, Jules showered police with a hail of bullets during a roadblock designed to recapture him. Perry Jules was shot dead by the police. At the time, he was being harbored by associates. They too were injured. Another clear indication that information is needed to make our country safer. The construction of the Bordelais Correctional Facility has allayed fears of prison breakouts. Criminals usually go back to their last known income generator while on the run. To secure their freedom, most will use violence. As such, the Director of Corrections urges you to proceed with caution.
Well, I say to every viewer watching this program today, if you were to encounter any of the fugitives that you see on the screen, I would recommend that you call the nearest police station. If that fails, you call the Bordelais Correctional Facility, the number 468-7159 or 7195, and leave a message with the person who answers that phone. Or if you would like, you can contact me directly at 468-7101. And always consider every fugitive dangerous because, as you know, these inmates have been out for quite a while, and I am sure they love their liberty.
In the next episode of Untold Stories, Mothers of Sorrow, we meet mothers who have lost their sons all through the most violent encounters. They discuss the path which their sons chose and their ultimate demise. They offer advice to other mothers on the possible signs of danger ahead and how to steer their children clear from it.
Never been told. Could go on and on, the fool has never been told. Could go on and on, the fool has never been told. Could go on and on, the fool has never been told. Could go on and on, the fool has never been told. Could go on and on, the fool has never been told. Could go on and on, the fool has never